Welcome everybody to the WG's podcast. So this is me, French OG on X, with my friend here, Chris Zephyr from X. So today's pod will be about how to train and how to screen your girl, right? In order for her to be that good girl, right? Because today, I read like this tweet, right, from Rivellino, and it says, you cannot have a good woman if you're a bitter man. And I was like, nah, you only believe in good women if you're still a mama's boy. Women are not born good. Women are made to be good. So the question is, how do you make them good? And here is why I've got Chris on the pod to delve deeper in the subject. So Chris, go on about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting statement by Rivellino, I think, right? Who is not someone I particularly respect.
Either do I.
It's this idea that you need to view women in a positive light to have success with women, which is the definition of blue-pilled feminist shit, right? Do gangster rappers view women in a positive light? Do pimps? Do I don't know, Romanian people traffickers, Like, no, none of those groups of people view women in a positive light, but they get their dick sucked and they get more love and respect from women than most of you listening will ever imagine in your lives, okay? It's not about viewing women in a positive light, okay? It's because the guys who have to do that are the guys who don't know how to deal with female bad behavior, right? So they have to view women in a positive light, and they have to only deal with girls that are nice to them back from the get-go. Okay. In reality, especially when you look at guys like pimps, when you look at guys like BDSM guys like myself, like sometimes the most broken women who require a little bit of training, a little bit of taming, are the ones that will actually love you the most once you've gone through that process. You don't need to be a nice guy and find a nice woman. Even the idea of wanting to find like a nice, sweet woman implies that, somehow you don't have what it takes to actually sort of really crack the whip, literally or figuratively. So ultimately, what do we look for, right? I mean, we want a woman who is suitable for our interests, but we don't want to be looking for a woman who is, I need to only hang around with this kind of woman because like any other kind of woman scares me, or like I need to select this woman because she's nice to me or something. This is desperate shit. Okay? You need to have an idea in your mind about a certain kind of sexual lifestyle. Not just sexual, but relationship, like a certain kind of lifestyle. And then once you have that idea in your mind, like, do you want lots of casual hookups? Do you want like one monogamous girlfriend who's loyal to you and completely devoted to you? Do you want like multiple like submissive girls? Like, what do you want? Right? What are the body types you want? What are the personality traits that you want? What is the type of lifestyle that you want to build? Right? Then what you do is that you screen for traits related to that. Right? And if a girl demonstrates those traits, then she's worth training. She's worth going through a little bit of back and forth, going through a little bit of gaming, right? If a girl doesn't have any of those traits, even if she's really sweet and nice and she'll never be mean to you, she's not going to give you the kind of life that you want. So you need to start screening girls based on the idea that you have of the lifestyle that you want in your head, right? Am I making sense here, French?
Yeah, I'd say a successful relationship is 90% screening. 90% screening and 10% managing. That's it. There's this idea that you have to game this girl to make her all this, compliant to you. No, mate. Either basically she fits your mold or she doesn't. And when she fits your mold, then you can train her. Thing is, it involves so much more work. And do you really want to be with someone that is not already somewhat inclined to what you want? But this whole idea even came with the idea of the high value woman. There's no fucking high value woman. There are women that are compatible to you, and there are women that are not compatible to you. And there are women that are kind of in the middle. A woman cannot be high value. Yes, you can have some traits that you like in a woman, like she's modest, she's loyal, all that. Yes, cool. That makes her your woman if you choose to, and if it's mutual. But the moment that you make it a high value woman, then you're basically already pedestalizing her as a scarce resource. Doesn't put you in a really good stead to basically make her your woman. All right? Because you need to be able to switch and change mentally if she doesn't behave right. Because the moment she doesn't behave right and you're in this scarcity position, what happens? She doubles down on the bullshit. And what are you going to do? There's no other girl like her. I can't fuck this up. I cannot fumble the bag. I can't fumble the bitch. And you don't want to be in that position. So first of all, understand, okay, what is your target market? How do you screen? And how do you manage? So Chris, how do you screen?
Screening is something that so many fucking people get wrong. There are so many guys out there who they'll show an example of a conversation they had with a woman and they fuck the conversation up somehow. And the woman's not into that. And they'll be like, oh yes, I've screened her out. Like, no, mate, you haven't. You've just fucked up. Screening is where a woman still wants you, but you have baited her into demonstrating something about herself that you don't really approve of and that makes her essentially worthless to you, and then you move on. Okay? Screening is where you have an idea in your head of certain kinds of traits that you want a woman to have. They could be physical traits, right? They could be personality traits. It could be traits regarding the kind of sexual acts that she is willing to engage in with you. And screening is a series of tests that you give that woman where if she fails one of those tests, you no longer have to interact with her anymore. So a good example of which is like I will, in my dating app profiles, I will deliberately drop some hints as to kind of kinky sex acts. Nothing too strong, but like, certain little like lines about, what's that? I've been using the same dating app profile for so damn long, I've forgotten it from the top of my head, but like, certain like lines where a girl who's into the same kind of things that I am will see that and pick up on and realize like, oh, this guy he's talking about this, right? Certain lines that if a very prudish girl, if the kind of girl who, thinks so highly of herself, she thinks she's above sex, blah, 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 she's like this kind of girl will see those kinds of lines and be turned off by it and be repelled by it. Good. I don't want to match with those girls. I don't want them to match with me. I don't want them to speak with me. I don't want to waste a single time. If you're not into kinky, depraved sex shit, you can fuck off as far as I'm concerned, the woman goes. Right? And if you're a woman who maybe is into that at some point in the far future, but we need to take it really, 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 really slowly, also fuck off. Like screening is basically reducing your dating pool. It's reducing your dating pool, right? It's like you've built up a certain amount of abundance, right? You can match with a certain number of girls on the apps every week. You can get a certain number of girls every month into you, right? Screening is taking your available abundant quantity of leads and then reducing them down through a variety of methods only to the ones that really, really suit you. Okay? Like if you're a beginner, if you're just out there trying to get as much experience as possible, you're probably not really going to be screening, right? But if you've already fucked like 50 or so girls, then you know what I mean. You're not going to be going out on a date with some girl who you're not entirely sure about. It's a fucking waste. You could spend that evening doing something, making money. I mean, at this point, even playing video games is better than, you know what I mean? Civ 7's coming out soon, bro. I'd rather spend my evening doing that than going out on a date with some girl who doesn't want to become my slave. You know what I mean? So yeah, screening is that when you've reached a certain point of experience and a certain point of abundance where you can afford to reduce your dating pool down only to the girls that match specific criteria that you've got in your. That's the definition of screening.
And obviously, we used Chris' example, was maybe more on the extreme. But for me, I'm not as on the dark side as Chris. I'm just a vanilla man. I'm vanilla. I'm half dark and half vanilla. That's it. Yeah, whatever. So like for me, what I like is I like extrovertedness in a girl. I like the fact that she shows social, the fact that she knows how to seduce, the fact that she can create a narrative alongside with me, right? And I can feel that there's this vibe going on and everything arises to the equation, to the level where it blossoms in sex, whatever. So I met this girl. She was like very, like literally, we got on the house on fire by text. We got on the house on fire like when we were in at the location we went for a day. It was all great, right? It was all great. I was like, all right, cool. Now like, basically like let's close the deal, right? And then she's like, like you can tell like she's been around the block for a long time, because when a girl basically is that confident and when she says no, when you basically bring her back to yours, you know that she knows why she's saying no, but like with such how adamant she is, and it's like, yeah, she's been around the block. So I'm like, yeah, cool, no matter, no, all good, right? Anyway, we go back on Uber, going back to hers, right, whatever. And then she dropped me back to mine. The Uber dropped me back to mine, and she just goes and texts me, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'll just be cordial and everything. And she wants to see me again, right? It's the typical type of stuff where a girl that really actually likes you and don't want to risk fucking too early. Basically, hold on, give me a sec. Don't want to fuck too early. Basically, they want to hold back. I'm like, all right, cool. I pretend like I don't pretend it's no problem. And then the next morning, I'll just tell her the text, hey, look, I had a really great night, but I didn't feel like the complicity. That's it, done. Even though she was literally eating me out, like kiss-wise, when we're at the place. Like she was really into me, but I was like, she didn't see it coming. She didn't see it coming. Didn't see it coming. Did you see the text that I shared on Twitter or not? Do you see the text that I shared on Twitter or not? No. I mean, not today. It was about Sunday morning, I think. Yeah, Sunday morning. Anyway, like I'm really, it was so funny because at first she had all those lovely emoji, lovely red emoji, kisses, all that, right? Then I put the block of text saying "fuck off," and then she was like, "Oh, I think you're absolutely right. We're not part of the same world, you know." But what does it show? It shows the fact that you can have even the best of dates if you don't like, if it doesn't fit your model that you like. You can even date that you think went very well, that you were in control of, up until to the point that you were not in control of. You can just say, fuck off. And the ability to say, fuck off, is your real power. Like Chris said, screening is not basically a coping mechanism for guys that girls didn't want to say that they screened themselves. No, the girls screened them out. It's about you when you hold the control of how much she likes you and say, I don't care how much you like me. I do not make this a contingent upon whether or not I'll put you forward onto the next stage. It's about how much you like her based upon what you like yourself. Because when you reach this stage where you're not there to please the bitch, because at the end of the day, what is a guy that chases a bitch? A guy that chases a bitch is a guy that has inferiority complex to a bitch. It's about you make the bitch the way you want it. But for her to be the way you want it, she first needs to drop the control. If she doesn't want to drop the control, she's off back to the streets. But all right, now we illustrate what screening is. But what about once she passed the test that you set up for her, and you want to basically mold her exactly to what you want? How do you do it?
Well, there are multiple ways of going about it, right? There's the official agreed upon sort of BDSM method, right? Where there is look, the unofficial methods, right, outside of kink and BDSM kind of training a girl. The only real difference is that with the BDSM type stuff, you're both self-aware about what's going on. She is agreeing to be under your control. You have an honest conversation about we're using a lexicon of certain words, and you basically outline what you want more clearly. Now, people who aren't in the kind of BDSM world, who spent a lot less time like fantasizing about the details of control and power dynamics and things like this, they are not free from power dynamics and training and control and things like that. It's just not necessarily officially agreed upon. right? A master might train his slave or his submissive, right? And she'll know that she's being trained, and there'll be a certain set of rules and certain punishments, right? And she'll be aware. At the same time, though, like, generally speaking, it is not such a different world from a vanilla relationship where a man and a woman are together and there is a power dynamics going on and there are certain expectations of feminine behavior from her and certain expectations of masculine authority from him. Okay. It's just the only difference is that it's just not necessarily as officially agreed upon. Right. And the two people involved might not necessarily be as honest with themselves about what is going on or to the degree of how much it's going on. But it all comes down to essentially leverage, right? It comes down to how willing is she to leave you if you want her to do something and she doesn't want to do it. That's essentially what it comes down to. Like if you want her to act in a certain kind of way and you push her to act in a certain kind of way and she feels uncomfortable or she just straight up doesn't want to do it to the point where she's okay with leaving you, right? And rather than do that thing, then everything's fucked up, right? You failed, right? So the question is that if there's a certain set of behavior that you want from her, right? Sexual relationship, or just the way she speaks to you, or maybe you want her to do certain things around the house, right? There has to be some kind of leverage, right? Now, leverage can come in a few different forms. You can present the act of doing something as a kind of chore that she has to do because you are also doing chores for her, which is, I mean, yeah, that can work, especially in like a conservative marriage, but it's also a shit way of doing it. It's like you see these conservative trad guys, right? They're like, I'm the man and I'm earning the money for you, and so therefore you have to cook me. They make everything sound like such a fucking chore. Like, you know what I mean? It's much better if you are able to sort of frame her doing things for you in a way which makes it into like a fun sex game. You can use very, very dry, conservative, like you have to perform your wifely duties bullshit kind of language to explain why you want her to make you a sandwich, or you can sort of, use, oh, I'm the man, I must protect you because it's my manly duty sort of language, right? To explain to her like what you're gonna do. You can do that, but it basically makes everything into some kind of stupid transaction, right?
Yeah.
If you want her to do certain things for you, the best way of doing it is to drip feed her the idea, little by little, and to make it sexual as you're doing it. And also, if you want her to do things for you, if you want to train her to act in the way that you want, you need to be able to constantly and subtly remind her of all the things that you do for her. But don't do it in a kind of whiny, like, oh, I bought this thing for you the other day, can you please give me a blowjob? No, none of that. None of that. Just remind her in very, very subtle ways exactly that of all of the different ways in which your authority helps her. If she says something good about you, like don't say, oh, it was nothing. Don't say like, don't do the humble thing. If she says like, oh, you helped, like, oh, when I was going crazy the other day and you calmed me down, like I felt really reassured. I felt like that was good. Don't be like, oh, it was nothing. It's just what I do. Don't be like that.
So what would you say?
Don't be like.
So what would you say?
Just say like, oh, well, that's the power that I have over you. And you know that my power is absolute. I can help you with anything that you need help with. It is within my authority. As long as you are a good girl for me, anything you need, that guidance, that authority, that direction, that purpose, that's what I give you. And as long as you're good for me, you will continue to reap the benefits of that bitch. Understand? Yes, sir. Right? That's how you do it. Right? So you frame it is like everything that you can do for her, you frame it in a kind of like sex talk, right? In a kind of fun way. You don't ever allow yourself to sort of downgrade what you do for her and downplay what you do for her. Because women don't like humbleness. They don't like self-deprecating kind of language. They don't like any of that shit. Talk about, like if you do anything for her, and she says, like remind her how lucky she is to have you. The luckier she feels she is, the more she will do for you.
Yeah, like women are not omniscient, first of all. Society is already downplaying you as to what the fuck you're doing in real life. Don't downplay yourself to the woman. Why? Because what's gonna happen is she'll take things for granted, like they all fucking do, right? They all fucking do that shit. So if you're not telling what the fuck's happening in her life, even though she's directly receiving, never underestimate the lack of sentience they have. They are that retarded. They are that retarded. So, it's very important for you to understand that it is not you being a braggart saying what the fuck you're doing for her. It is actually you doing the after sale effort saying this is the customer success. The customer success saying, well, you signed the contract with us. This is the stuff that we're going to deliver as a milestone. This is that. It's exactly that, right? Because you'd be surprised at how very quickly and very rapidly women will actually forget about all the shit that you do for them, not even take into account all the sacrifices. So obviously, it's always nice to make it gamify it, right? Whereas there's a bit of sexual play. But think about it also, right? It's always a matter of leverage. What leverage do you have over her, right? It's not about making it as overt and as transactionalist as what you were saying about the, how do you call them, the tradcons. Because technically, what they're just using money and religion as a way to basically frame a relationship because they have no frame.
Yes, that is a fantastic way. Sorry to interrupt you, but that is
no, it's fine. Go ahead.
That is a fantastic way of defining it. Traditional guys, like the guys who are all like Christian or Muslim or whatever, those guys, the only thing they have is money and religion. That's all they have. That's all they have. They have no like sexual. They have no game. They have no ability to make the relationship fun. They have nothing. They have literally nothing. It's just the book. You read them the rules that some other guy wrote ages ago, and you read the rules from that book, and you scare her with hell, and then you remind her that you're the breadwinner, and that's it. And without that, they're fucked. You know what I mean? Like that's why these guys get wrapped around their wife's fingers, because they're so obsessed with this, with being the good man because of their religious upbringing, right? And they're so obsessed with being like the masculine provider that any woman who can come along and convince them that doing her bidding is your role as a man, or it's just what a good man does, he'll be wrapped around her finger in a second, because those are the only two things that they got.
The thing is, it's like guys think, all right, I'll give you an example, right? Guys think, you know what, I'd rather pay a $50,000 car to attract girls, right? Oh, great, it'll attract girls, but then you'll just be a fucking dumbass target for them, because they know they'll be able to manipulate you. Guys think that they basically earn like fucking six figures, gonna have bitches submit to them. It ain't fucking happening. They just basically, what they see is a guy that's got more money than sense. If he doesn't know how to fucking handle me, because I'll be able to extract the shit out of it. Hold on, yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
Very, very quickly. Like in the past relationship that I had, right? She was working for a hedge fund manager, worth 8-9 figures, right? I mean, actually, I can't even talk about this shit. Anyway, but the point I'm saying is, like, you have a guy like Napoleon, all right, fucking running a fucking empire all across continental Europe, revered and adored by his peers, money, fame, status, and still he was a bitch of Josephine.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
Literally.
So what does that tell you? That tells you that you can be as having all of those looks, the money, the status, but if you don't have a fucking backbone, if you don't tell your bitch to basically, if you don't make your bitch go, set up straight, you're done, man. It's like the only thing that you make yourself be is you make yourself be more of a target to someone who has most likely have apex predator type of tendencies, and then you have just more to lose, whilst having the illusion that you're more in control than you do.
Yeah, there are most people are not willing to look at conversations and relationships as power struggles. They desperately want relationships to be about abstract concepts like morality and love, and also also the kind of logistical elements of like people, working together in a relationship to run a household, build businesses together, etc. But the thing is that every single one of those relationships can easily be torn apart and destroyed by one social predator, female or male, who comes along, who is able to actually excite someone's emotions. Right? There are women who have literally like left like families, and like they've left their families and their stable husbands who earn large amounts of money and are good members of their community, literally to go and marry like a guy in prison who's on trial for like killing a child. That's happened. There was a woman in America who she worked as a prison guard. She was married to a quite a high ranking member of. There's a Netflix documentary on about it right now. Actually, she was married to a quite a high ranking member of the police force, and there was a psychopath in prison who I think had armed robber. I think he'd killed a few people in the course of his robberies, and she fell in love with him and basically busted him out of prison. She opened up all the doors in the prison one night and just let him out. And she's obviously they got caught, right? They got caught in the end, right? So she threw away that whole life just because she met one guy. And like, here's the thing: these conservative guys who talk about like, oh, you need to have your shit together, you need to have money, you need to be a man who is in control of his emotions, you need to be an upstanding moral man. Was the guy in prison, that armed robber, any of those things? He hasn't got his shit together. He hasn't got a direction going forward in his life. He's fucking in prison. Where's his money? It turns up some fucking police evidence room somewhere, right? Where's his direction in life? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These rules only matter if you are not able to view conversations as like a sort of as a power struggle between your power and her emotions. Okay,
And
if you go on.
Oh, sorry, no, because the thing is, it's important to understand power dynamics, but the idea is not to make them overt. It's not about you seeking power because you don't have any. It's about you understanding power dynamics so that you know that she will want to use power, because women always seek power. They always seek what they don't have, and when they're trying to seek that away from you, right? So you have to be aware and cognizant of the power dynamics so that you don't give it to her. Not that you lead with the power dynamic in the sense that you're insecure, that you basically need to have all those type of controlling mechanism, but you need to be able to understand what each and every action she does and what is that the name of. You see what I'm saying? For example, you were giving the expression of like the example of take the opportunity that she gives you as a way to remind her of all the shit that you do for her, right? You're literally picking up the stick that she's holding towards you, right? Because in that power dynamic. But it's not something that you do because I want to assert a control or power that I don't have. No, you're just encompassing her with what she's giving you. That's the difference. Because
if you can stimulate her emotions, you have the power. And like all any money, any other kind of leverage is. I mean, here's the thing. There are guys like if you look at, say, for example, like we all know Andrew Tate, right? He's a good example. Andrew Tate talks about how it's interesting how the advice that he gives now is different from the advice that actually got him successful. Now he's presumably, because of all the attacks against him in the media, he's trying to sort of become a more marketable character. He talks almost like about being the provider. He almost talks about like being like a sugar daddy now, right? The way he talks about getting women. But if you got to remember, like Andrew Tate, when he was broke, right, he got women to fall in love with him, and then start like webcam for him, and then give him most of the money from the webcam, right? Like those women technically had more financial power than he did, right? Because they had their bodies, they had the ability to do webcam. They were beautiful women, right? They had like in terms of money, just in terms of the ability to make money, those women naturally had more, but he was able to be the dominant force in their lives and be that sort of authority. And when he was the dominant force in their lives and that authority, it just seemed natural for them to give him the money. This is how pimping works. This is how, like, at the end of the day, like in pimping or human trafficking or any of these people, and by the way, I don't recommend illegal actions on this. The Double OG podcast does not recommend you do anything too illegal, right?
Or illegal.
All legal. Strictly keep everything amoral and illegally questionable in a gray area, right?
No. We all clean here. We all clean. We all vanilla.
We're all clean. I'm just explaining the world to you guys. I'm not, whatever you do with this information is your business. But if you look at like a lot of other standard advice you see in the manosphere, and outside the manosphere in polite society, pimps would literally not exist if that was the actual advice that was, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, if you look at like a pimp will have a bunch of hoes, they'll be the ones earning the money. They'll be the ones, like, with the moneymaker. They've got the opening in between their legs that's a moneymaker. They've got their tits, they've got their legs out. They're the moneymaker, right? They're the ones that are generating the assets. So why are they giving it to the pimp? Because there is a dominant man in their lives who gives them structure, who can play with their emotions, and that masculine energy is more important and more vital to their lives than the money that they're making. Right? Women don't actually really care about money. Women only really care about money when they're not getting that masculine energy, when they're not getting that. I say masculine, but to be honest, I've seen guys who are good at doing this who are not even fucking masculine in the slightest bit. I've seen like skinny, long-haired dudes who are good at doing this shit. Just like, I would say, like, dominant, emotionally, being able to emotionally excite her. The excitement of her emotions is the only thing that matters in the entire world. She will give up status in polite society. She will give up money. And she will not just give up her what's in between her legs, but she will fling it at you, right? If you are able to create that sort of emotional roller coaster, that's the only thing that really matters.
Like, power resides where men believe it resides, and women believe it resides. It's a trick, a shadow on the wall, and a very small man can cast a very large shadow. So the point I'm saying is, call me Varys, right? Varys from fucking Game of Thrones, right?
Little reference for those in the know.
There you go.
It is true. It's a good line.
And you only get punished with the power that you give to a woman. So hold back on giving power to a woman, because they'll always use it against you. It's like giving a stick to someone that basically don't have any agency, or a bazooka to a child. They'll eventually pull the trigger. So on this note, it's a bit of a short podcast today, as I've got to go, got a lot of shit going on. But it's been great talking to you, Chris. Do you have any type of last word before we wrap this up?
No, that's good. It's been a short one, but I think we've touched upon some deep conversations. I feel like both subjects are something we should return again to in the future when we've got a bit more time.
This is kind of like just a bit of an intro for people to kind of like see whether it's something that people want to read or want to listen to or want to watch and want to discuss more. I mean, obviously, feel free to drop stuff in the comments. We'll be more than happy to go deeper in this when we have a bit more time. 007 will be back on the podcast on this week. Are you gonna come? Are you gonna come as well?
Yeah, definitely. There is one more thing, a shameless plug. Not that I've ever had much shame. My new book is out. My book about harem. It's all about threesomes, dealing with multiple women, and setting up polygamous relationships. So for those lads who have that as your dream, I would recommend going and buying it. It's a very reasonable price considering the life-changing information you're going to receive from it, and it's the only place you're going to find that kind of information. So there we go.
You'll be in the description on the pod anyway. So on this, guys, we'll see you very soon, and most likely I'll drop this video alongside the video that I'll have with 007 and you, Chris, if you can make it for the next one. All right, perfect. On this, guys, Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for watching and supporting us.